I had a good friend of mine, Sarah, ask me about what she should do to set up her own home studio to be able to have audio come from speakers in front of her, but not cause feedback and not have to deal with a lot of processing. And while I'll say that a lot of that can be handled by the software, it is nice if you can do it in the hardware. Um, so I'm going to show off kind of what I have in my studio. So this actually prods me into doing something I've been meaning to do. People have asked for is what do you use? And so this is a breakdown of the what do you use. So let me kick over to my screen and we'll go through it really quickly. All right, so this is the layout. It starts with my laptop over here and goes through this myriad of equipment. On the right side, I kind of have my video processing, and on the left, I have my audio. And we're just going to go through that a little bit in detail. So on the video side, the ATEM Mini receives HDMI sources from like anything you want to bring in. I'm actually going to be experimenting with adding another camera I'll talk about here in a minute. And becomes the camera source to the computer. So if you notice, I have the laptop. It goes to the docking station over Thunderbolt. That's important, especially since some of these things we're doing can actually exceed USB 3's capabilities if combined. So we really want to have a Thunderbolt connection back to absorb those USB 3's. If you have a desktop, not as big a deal. You actually have enough USB bus that you're fine to go around. But when you're dealing with a laptop and a single wire, just have to remember that. It goes into an ATEM Mini. Which is actually a relatively new addition to my stuff, and I've barely scratched the surface of what I can do with it. But the ATEM Mini essentially becomes sources that you can select with those white buttons down there, and each one of those sources can be a different camera. So in this case, I have an A6400 right in front of me that's my primary source, and then I have an A6000 over to my left that becomes a secondary source that I can use. And so for the video processing aspect, you really could get away with just a single source that's coming in through like a Elgato 4K USB 3 capture. I just wanted to add a little bit more, and I still have that in my travel case, and maybe we'll break down what goes in my travel setup down the road. But this is essentially the video side, and we'll get to how you're bringing that in your computer in a minute, but just know that it's coming in over USB 3. Then we're going to go to the audio side. So on the audio side, from that same docking station, from that same Thunderbolt connectivity, I have a Focusrite Duo. So you can do this a lot of different products out there. Focusrite Solo is also perfect for this. But it allows for multiple or single XLR connections with monitoring. What do I mean when I say monitoring? I mean that I can listen to the source of those microphones even though my ears are completely plugged up, right? So I can actually hear what I sound like to the microphone, and I can hear that when I turn my head here, it is not as good or as clear as when I have my head here. So it kind of helps you focus on the microphone a little bit. You can also use monitoring when overhead, probably not the most recommended, but it can. You could do that. It would be no, actually, I don't think you can. It would be bad. I have to turn it off. But anyways, so in this setup, I go into the Focusrite Duo in this case. I have a set of Westone UM50 Pros. I think they're a 3-driver in-ear studio monitor. I then connect to my desk with my handy dandy Frameworks Deluxe arm that already comes with this nice built-in XLR cable in it. So if you're going to buy one, I didn't know that at the time and bought my own cable. If you're going to use this as a setup, you don't need it. And then I'm using a Rode NT1A microphone. I love it, but you could cut costs on that and just go with like a Rode Pod mic. It's fantastic. Really good mics there too. And then I also have a PreSonus 5.5 set of 5.5-inch speakers up on the shelf over my head, and that's where I listen to my music. That's where I listen to some conference calls if I don't want to put in ears and I'm maybe not going to be speaking a lot, and I don't have to be confident in what I'm actually saying and how I sound. And so like this is kind of the base setup, those two combined. I then bring those into OBS. And I could probably now with my ATEM Mini skip the OBS aspect of this, but I really do like the OBS controls that I can do with my Stream Deck, so that I can go on my Stream Deck and change scenes inside of, on the left there, if you see an OBS, there's the different scenes. Those could be different cameras. Got some USB cameras I like to integrate as well, so that gives me the ability to have USB on the intro. And I'll kind of go back to what I was talking about before with the video side. On my ATEM Mini, I'm actually going to be building some Raspberry Pi cameras to fill out ports 3 and 4. That'll be Raspberry Pi and a very small little high quality lens for it, so it'll be really fun. But that's it. That's essentially what's in my studio and how I kind of spend most of my life during COVID building for the ability to speak to people remotely. So thanks for paying attention. I sure appreciate it. Let me know if you have any ideas or suggestions of other things I should cover.